All right. So he'd gone over, healed the healed the leopard. The zebra left unaffected. Now he's heading back. So let's pick up here, Matthew 9. Kevin, do you mind? Oh, well, if you're eating a donut.
And getting into the boat, he crossed over and came to his own city.
Which would be Capernaum.
And behold, some people brought to him a paralytic lying on a bed. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Take heart, my son, your sins are forgiven." And behold, some of the scribes said to themselves, "This man is blaspheming." But Jesus, knowing their thoughts, said, Why do you think evil in your hearts? For which is easier to say, your sins are forgiven, or say, rise and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. He then said to the paralytic, rise, pick up your bed, and go home. And he rose and went home. And when the crowd saw it, they were afraid, and they glorified God that had given such authority to them.
You remember last week we talked about Matthew 11. When Jesus is, and we're gonna get there, he says, "Look, are you the one to come or somebody else?" John the Baptist asked him. He goes, "The blind receive the sight, the lame walk, lepers are clean, the deaf hear, and the dead are raised. And the poor have the good news preached to them." We looked at the passage in Isaiah, how that's a sign of the Messiah, if you will. And Matthew is doing this, having Jesus do this, and now he's expanding it. The Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. That is not in the purview of the Messiah. That is not what they would have considered. This is stretching the envelope. What do you mean you have the authority? Because who can forgive sins? Only one person. And where is this coming from? And so they naturally, you're a blasphemer. He goes, well, let's see. They bring on, they does. He goes, And so now they're afraid because it doesn't fit any of our boxes. Was he the Messiah? Well, Messiah don't forgive sins. Who can be the God? Is he God? Is he a heretic? Is it blasphemy? They don't know what to make of him. So they're afraid. But they glorify God. The guy did rise and walk. Maybe his sins are forgiven. That's our only explanation for him being able to walk. Things that make you go, Tom, can you read for me?
We are 9:9.
Yes, sir.
All right. As Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting at the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he rose and followed him.
That was weird. And the chosen, Matthew is autistic. He's on the spectrum. And so it's fascinating to watch him and how they came up with that. They talk about it in one of the extras. Just, well, he's always just, anyway, it's an intriguing variation on this. I never heard, but nevertheless, Matthew shows up, whose gospel we're reading. And we're going, So we get his name. And he rose and followed. That's all we're told.
To me, I don't think it's all that important, but one of the things I think about is this is when Matthew comes into the story. So everything we've heard before was told to Matthew.
Right. Word of mouth.
And even in the previous passage, the story we get is Matthew describing what the Pharisees or whomever
Right.
what they were thinking Well, the only person who could have known what they were thinking was Jesus.
I wouldn't even go there. I mean, that's possible, but it's, so you're concluding that Matthew must be talking to Jesus about what happened.
I've certainly talked to him because
Yeah.
it was a disciple, but, but the other possibility is that there were a lot of other conversations going on, and it just kind of became conversation among people.
No, well, it certainly became conversation among the disciples. We keep talking about this show, and it's good. But one of the good things they do is the focus isn't on Jesus. That's not the one you follow. It's all the apostles and stuff. And there's a whole episode where Jesus isn't even there. He's off camera, and they're just back at the camp, exhausted, talking, getting in fights. But it's pure speculation, of course, but it's brilliant about how they would have had these conversations. What is wrong with you, Matthew? How can you be a tax collector? That sort of conversation. So remember, there's a story where Jesus, and we're going to get to it later, they're going up north later in his ministry, and they're passing by Panias in Arabic, but it's Panium in Latin. It's a city north of where they are now, up in the mountains. That is a Roman shrine. It's a temple to all the Roman gods. And as they're walking by, Jesus asked the apostles a question. Who do the people say that I am? And that's where he gets, well, you're Elijah, you're John Baptist, because John Baptist is already dead at this point. You're whatever, a couple answers. And then what's his follow-up question? Do you remember? Who do you say that I am? And remember that in the Gospels, what we're getting are 4 answers to that question. Who do you, Matthew, say that I am? It's not Jesus per se. It's who Matthew says Jesus is. And that's the divinely inspired message. And we get wrapped up into questions about inerrancy and this sort of stuff, and that's not the issue. These aren't histories. They're not biographies. They're gospels. And it's Matthew proclaiming the impact that Jesus had on his life. And it's what John's doing, 2 disciples. And then with Mark and Luke, 2 guys that didn't even hear it firsthand. They were taught it, which is how all of us heard it. And we're getting 2 answers from that perspective. Second generation, as it were, who do you say that I am? And it's this impact on these lives. And that's why we're getting these perspectives. They are dealing with the historical Jesus, obviously. But Jesus, God controls time. He could have Jesus come now where we had video recorders. Wait, Peter. Oh, man. And we don't get that. We get this. Because the question is, who do you say that I am? And the history obviously matters. I'm not downplaying that, but that's not the import of this. The import is, how has it struck Matthew? How does it strike Mark when you read that? This is what impacted me. John, completely different. He doesn't even bother with chronology. He's rearranging everything.
Would they have known that they were all writing?
They had Matthew and John had to, well, John's writing, traditionally John's writing later. I date him a little earlier, but I remember the Gospels were written in the 60s, maybe the 50s, probably the 60s. Jesus has been dead for 30 years, raised and gone on. The church is everywhere. Paul's a big deal. Wasn't even there during the Gospels. The church has been kind of scattered. Remember, Peter's up at Antioch in Acts, not in Jerusalem. He's ways away. Not in Tulsa, he's in Bartlesville. What's going on? So presumably they were aware. But, we don't know that precisely. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all share a common thing. There's passages in Matthew and Luke that aren't found in Mark, but are word for word the same. So they're clearly looking at the same thing. And our suspicion is they're looking at notes for sermons that the preachers had. And we call this the source, which in German happens to be Quellen, spelled with a Q, and so we call it Q. And it's a written document, but it's loose leaf. It's not in any order. But Matthew and Luke have access to that. And then there's Mark, and Matthew and Luke clearly make access of Mark. So they know Mark's written because they're using it to write theirs. But again, why would you do that if we already had Mark? Because I'm telling you how Jesus impacted me. And excuse me, Mark wasn't even there. So let me tell you. Now, Luke, also not there, has the audacity in his introduction to say, by the way, I'm going to set the record straight, tell you what really happened. I'm going to give you an orderly account, unlike the others. I'd love to see that. Mark, what were you thinking? I did pretty well, thank you very much. It's evidenced by the fact that you copied me. So some were aware than others, whether they were all aware, I can't tell you. Does that make sense? So,
And you said the original was Q?
no, Q was another document. We had traveling preachers. What?
I just find that interesting that Q was
Not the guy from, is that Superman Q?
so, no, I'm talking about
You're talking about
Q.
QAnon.
Yeah, what the Trump-
Oh, QAnon. Oh my God. Usually people make reference to Q's and Superman. Isn't there a Q? No, I'm not talking about that bond. A different Q. It might be Doctor Who. I don't know. It's one of these science fiction. Is it Star Trek that has Q? Yeah,
Star Trek Next Generation.
yeah, okay. That Q. You know, he's going to QAnon. But just to make clear, yes, we had traveling preachers, and what they would do is have briefcases with documents, usually stories about Jesus. And I'm going to preach about this, and they pull out that sheet, but it wasn't in a book form. It was just loose leaf notes.
So is that how it got on chronological order?
Well, it's, when you compare, technically Q is the stuff that we find in Matthew
That's right.
and Luke that are not in Mark. Stuff that's in Matthew and Luke, but not in Mark, is what we call Q. And what's interesting is this stuff is often word for word the same, but they're in different places in the chronology. Hence the conclusion that it's a loose leaf thing, and they're filling it in where they need it. And it's just notes on sermons that Jesus gave, because they're almost always sayings of Jesus. And then, of course, you have Mark, who's giving a gospel, a biography. All right. Verse 10. And Janie, you want to read for me, please? And can everybody hear? Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
I can hear.
Okay, we can hear Janie. All right. Your mom says she can hear you. Okay.
Said she can always hear you. She knows your voice.
Oh, okay,
That's what it is. She's in tune. She's not saying you're loud. No.
Okay. And as Jesus reclined at the table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came and were reclining with Jesus and his disciples.
Big deal. This is unclean. You do not do this. Jews don't eat with non-Jews. Muslims don't eat with non-Muslims. That's a rule. Same sort of thing. You get, So what is Jesus doing here? Whose house? We don't know. One of the disciples, because Jesus doesn't own a house, and presumably it's in Capernaum. And these guys are hanging out with him. Could it be Matthew's house? He's a tax collector. But they're all here, and it's just, you don't do that. So Jesus forgives this guy's sins. He walks and he's hanging with sinners. Again, not what the Messiah does. So we have this stuff where Matthew is establishing Jesus as the Messiah, but then pushing the envelope, breaking the box.
So did that hit a little harder with him because he was a tax collector?
Matthew,
Yeah,
it makes you wonder.
it makes a little more emphasis.
Yeah, I think Matthew's going, guys make fun of me. No, exactly. And We're in verse 11, whoever's reading. Okay.
And when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard it, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I came not to call the righteous,
Not to call righteous.
And look, this is not news to the Jews. It's not like Jesus is making this up. They're aware of this, but as in all religions, but in Judaism, there's some of this had been forgotten, if you will, and not by all groups, but the Pharisees. And remember who the Pharisees are. They are lay people, that is not priests, who are going to live by the holiness code, which is demanded of the priests. On their own, they've decided to live a holy life as defined by the law. We're going to live according to the holiness code of the priests, even though we're not priests. Because they're reacting to the history. We were in freaking exile. We had the Persians, and then the Greeks, and now the Romans controlling us. Enough. We got to do something to get out from under this thumb. And the obvious solution is we're not keeping the covenant. We got to do that. We got to be holy. So this is their response. It's not an evil impulse, but it's a distracting impulse. And they've lost track of what it's all about. And so Jesus is telling, look, mood, mercy, not sacrifice. By the way, where does that come from? What? Good guess there, brother. And since I'm asking, what part of the Bible does it probably come from? Aha! Yes. Samuel talking to Saul. Why didn't you sacrifice the animal? I was saving it for, why didn't you kill it? I'm saving, I'm saving it for the sacrifice. And that's when Samuel goes, he desires obedience, not sacrifice, not mercy, but you get the idea. Sacrifice is not the end goal. Moving on. No, I'm going to pass the buck. Tom, have you read?
Yes.
Okay, then.
Want me to read again?
No. We'll let Jeff
Okay.
Hunt read.
Then the disciples of John came to him saying, "Why do we and the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "Can the wedding guest mourn as long as the bridegroom is with him? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst and the wine is spilled and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved."
So, remember me telling you, Matthew's presenting Jesus as pushing the envelope of what a Messiah does. This is the new wineskin stuff. I'm doing a new thing. You have certain expectations of what the Messiah is. And don't forget, for most of them, the Messiah was a military figure. Okay, son of David, supposed to take over and lead them in military conquest and get rid of the Gentile domination. And Jesus, I'm not doing that. In fact, I'm forgiving sinners. In fact, I'm hanging out with sinners. New thing. It's throwing them off guard. They don't know what to do. Even John the Baptist's disciples. And John himself, and we're going to see in just a couple chapters, are you him, cousin? We've talked about this all our lives, and you're not doing what I'm expecting. And Jesus goes, yeah, I am. You're just not seeing it. So, new wineskins. Things that make you go, huh. All right, Daniel, verse 18.
While he was saying these things to them, behold, a ruler came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live."
Okay, by ruler, he just means a leader. So a synagogue leader, a leader in the community, we don't know, but it's upper crust. All right. And
And Jesus rose and followed him with his disciples.
pause. Look at that statement. Come lay your hand on, she'll live. And maybe she'll live. If you'll come lay your hands on her. That's okay. So we're only in chapter 9, but his reputation's gotten around, and this guy's convinced. Doesn't hesitate. He goes, come on, let's go heal this guy's daughter. So they're on their way, verse 20.
And behold, a woman who had suffered from a discharge of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. For she said to herself, if I only touch his garment, I will be made well. Jesus turned and seeing her, he said, take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well.
Whoa. I didn't say the woman was made well. Now you've heard sermons on this, so you blew in the face. She's not supposed to be in a crowd. She's unclean. She's risking that, so it's a bit selfish on her part. But dadgummit, I want to be healed of this. And all I gotta do is touch his garment. And she goes, right on. And instantly the woman was made well. Things are ratcheting up. And I keep pushing this, but it's breaking out of that box. We're so used to talking about Jesus the healer, but you got to remember, most of the stuff is him breaking out of the box. This is not what they're expecting. They have other healers, not as good as he is, but it's throwing everything for a loop. On the way to do one, this woman gets healed. A woman, no less, and she touches him. That does not happen. So she's risking everything for this. And it does. All right, verse 23.
And when Jesus came to the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, go away, for this girl is not dead, but sleeping.
And they laughed at him. All right, so the guy's got money. He's got professional mourners. That's what they are at the house doing their thing. And she said, she's not dead. She's just sleeping. We do this for a living, dude. And Jesus has no time for this. Verse 25.
So if he's got the professional mourners there, was he not expecting to find this?
There's family.
Oh, and the family was like.
He's got wife, and if he's a ruler, there's a whole extended family. There's certain protocol. And even then, he goes, we'll do the protocol, but he doesn't know that Jesus is going to come. He's going to go ask. So he's covering all the bases. But let there be no doubt what he thought was going to happen if Jesus came. He stated it. All right, 25.
But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went through all that district.
So the other gospels give a little more detail. Tabitha, Kumi, and all this stuff. No, she comes out. And the ruler was proved right. So we don't hear about him anymore. But he had to be a disciple of Jesus after that. How do you not? So who knows where he is? Where he plays a story. Any writers in here? There's a story to write. The story of this guy, Ralph and his daughter. And what happened? I like Ralph as a generic name. People don't expect it. Wow. All right. Mr. Wilmoth, sir. Would you pick up in verse 27?
Yeah, and as Jesus passed on from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying aloud, have mercy on us, Son of David.
Pause. Not demon possessed. These are blind guys. Have mercy on us, Son of David. What's Matthew saying? The blind guys can see. Why can't you guys? The blind guys can see. Son of David, what's the significance of that? I can't hear you. Right, but it's also that expected figure. son of David, the coming ruler, the Messiah. Verse 28.
When he entered the house, the blind men came to him, and Jesus said to them, "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" They said to him, "Yes, Lord." Then he touched their eyes, saying, "According to your faith, be it done to you."
And their eyes were open.
And their
Pause.
eyes were opened.
Why this way? Why that question? They're running around shouting, "Son of David, have mercy on us." Do you believe I'm able to do it? And then why this? According to your faith, be it done to you.
Because he knows that who he is gonna come into question, and he's trying to build a following of people who actually believe who he is.
That'd be part of it, I would think. What else do you guys see? Don't you find that an odd way of expressing it? He didn't do that to the other guy. He walked in and said, "Hey, she's not sick." We have no conversation with the rich guy.
Just an emphasis on faith.
Yeah, but yes, it appears that it's easy to read it that way. Plenty of people, the whole faith healing movement goes on that approach. And obviously that's part of it. But I don't see that's what Jesus is doing here.
Making sure that it's faith that they're asking, like, that it's coming from that source, because obviously they've been yelling out, loudly, which is grasping at straws.
Maybe, I don't know them. Take it off of me, according to your faith. I don't know, but it's an interesting question to ask. Why did he phrase it that way? Remember my cardinal rule for reading the Bible. Why am I being told this? Why in this way? So what an odd way to put it. According to your faith, be it done to you. Well, their eyes were open. So what do we know about their faith?
Isn't that like I've had friends who have been told in other churches that the reason why you're not healed from this is because your faith isn't strong enough. And I think that if you read that out of context, then that's how people can get that. But I don't believe I don't think it's the same kind of faith that he's talking about here. I think it's, do you believe who I am? Not, do you believe what I can do? Do you believe who I am? That's, I don't know.
I totally agree with you, Jenny, and I am very much focused on my faith right now because my faith is being tested and persecuted right now. And to me, it comes down to that relationship piece. That's what he's asking. Are you willing, and do you have a relationship with me? Do you believe who I am? I just think that comes down to the relationship piece to me.
I don't know if this has been mentioned or not, but according to your faith, be it done to you. So in my mind, or, where I'm thinking is that whether that be God or me, according to your faith, let it be done to you. So whether it's me that you follow and believe in, or whether it's God that you follow and believe in, because again, remember our times, at least that's what it speaks to me.
Anybody else? Interesting question worth dwelling on. Why is he saying it that way? I don't think it's a quantity question. That I don't know, according to your faith. So, because what's the whole point of this section? Who is Jesus? He's the Messiah, son of David, but he hangs out with sinners. What's up with that? Now he's claiming to be God. That's tangentially, but nevertheless, it's there. What's going on? No.
Well, there are two of them together, so they came collectively. And to me, it could be, I'm not healing you as a group. like, in other words, if one of you really believes and just kind of led the other one along, the other skeptical, you'll be, that's the way it's gonna work out. One of you will be healed and one won't. In this case, it sounds like they were both healed. It
Well,
strikes
yeah.
me that-
Their eyes were open.
That's what I'm saying. So I kind of read it as I'm healing you individually. I'm not healing you collectively.
I was getting the exact opposite reading, that your friend can help you in your unbelief, as it were. And then the repercussions are for both. I mean, we don't know how they are. They're both saying it, but you can bolster each other. That's an intriguing reading. Who knows? But look what happens. Verse 30, who's reading?
That was me.
Would you do 30 for me?
Yep. And their eyes were opened, and Jesus sternly warned them, see that no one knows about it.
Oh, okay. What's that about? And by the way, do they obey? They went away in its frame and spread its fame throughout all that district.
It's gonna be, people that know him, it's gonna be kind of obvious anyway, right? I mean, unless you fake it.
Yeah, right. We're blind. All of a sudden, yeah. What? How can they can't? What is Jesus thinking? No one knows about it. How? I can see. So he's avoiding fame. What an odd thing. And there's no simple answer to why he's doing this, because everything's been explored. But it's worth thinking about. He's not after his own fame. And I'm sorry, Jesus, this is catching up with you. Just like when Mary says, okay, let's change the wine. We need it now. But just do it, Jesus, because I asked. Okay. So, things that make you go, Okay, verse 32, Matthew, but what?
It's interesting that he didn't tell the guy whose daughter and the hemorrhaging woman, he didn't tell them, see that no one knows about it.
Exactly.
What guy is that?
The very ones that it'll be impossible to cover. If you can, the lame guy running down the street, don't tell anybody. 32, Matthew.
And as they were going away, behold, a demon-oppressed man who was mute was brought to him. And when the demon had been cast out, the mute man spoke. And the crowds marveled, saying, Never was anything like this seen in Israel. But the Pharisees said, he casts out demons by the prince of demons.
Now you're getting just simple jealousy. Okay. Not all the Pharisees, but enough of them. Oh, good grief. Is this what Jesus is trying to avoid? Don't tell anybody. All right, verse 35, Matthew, you did so well.
And Jesus went throughout all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every affliction.
Pause. So he's able to get into the synagogues. So it's not like all the Jews were against him. That's clearly not the case. He's able to get into the synagogues. He's able to speak. He proclaims the gospel of the kingdom, otherwise known as the gospel of heaven as well. Kingdom, heaven, God. They're referred to the same thing. And healing every disease and every affliction. The healing is a necessary sign. And this is what he's going to hark back to. Okay, verse 36.
When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest.
Okay, that's changing. This is not about healing. Harvest for the kingdom. That's his orientation. He had compassion on them. Every surah of the Quran begins with the Lord is merciful and compassionate, which is actually from the Bible, but kind of got taken over by them. But God is merciful and compassionate. This is what he is. And we see this in Jesus. And these people are lost. You can feel his heart. We need more laborers. Things that make you go, Julie, you're staring at me blankly. Okay. I'm going to stop here at 10. Convenient stopping place. Chapter 10, verse 1. Somebody make a note. Janie, Daniel. Now, I want to send it a prayer. You guys know that I pray for you every night. Well, I pray for you a lot of nights. There's sometimes I'm just too tired. And I do it at night. It's stupid. I'm usually too tired, but I do it. And what I do is I go through the room with the chairs like this. That's how I remember everybody. And then others you get tossed in. So enough of you know that you contact me and say, I need this prayed for. And I don't share it because you told me. So, but your classmates and people in this room, some people are going through some pretty crappy stuff. I mean, we found about Nikki because she shared last week. That's some crappy stuff. But there's some big time stuff in this room that we don't hear about that hopefully you'll pray about. I would encourage you to share with people. You don't have to share with the whole class. But when Stephanie was born, and we got this edict about her, or that's not the word I want. When we got the diagnosis, my reaction was not to tell anybody. Because, and I'll tell you what my reaction was. And I wonder if this will resonate with some. Because I said, I have a backpack full of rocks, which is Stephanie's genetic condition. What I don't need are people throwing in more rocks by, trying to help me and praying and saying the wrong thing. So I just didn't tell them. But over the course of time, about 6 months or so, God convinced me that's not the right attitude. And so in fact, what I did is I shared it in a chapel at ORU when she was 6 months old. I sat her on the floor next to me and she's sitting up and I just shared the story. And I explained, she has a condition, which means she can't sit up. Mind you, she's sitting up, right? So as I go through all this, and then it dawns on them that God's obviously doing a work. And that's what God wanted me to see. You can't think of your backpack with more rocks at it. It does happen, but you can throw the rocks out by sharing. So as you're going through stuff, and people are going through stuff in this room, as you feel comfortable, share it with at least one or two, so somebody can help carry the burden with you, because this is too much. This is just too much. You guys, I don't know if you remember 22 years ago, we weren't in the same Sunday school class then, but Larry Snowbarger's wife, they were going to this church. She came up to me and said, I've been praying for Steffi and I just keep getting, she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. Lance Houtling's dad, he pronounced it hoteling. Remember, he prayed for Stephanie every day. You got to do what you can do. But I would encourage you to share as you feel led. And let others help carry the burden. And let us pray. Because as we've just read, we serve a God who acts. He does act. He's not mute. He's not an idol sitting on a shelf. He's a person who does things. He moves mountains. So I'd encourage you to share it. But in the meanwhile, the point of all this, start praying for your classmates because you do not know what they're going through. All right. And stuff is stuff. We don't need that. And we can use some help. So as we enter into prayer time, this was not an invitation for dumping everything now, but let's pray. Do we have anything that we can pray for tonight or today?
My mom's in ICU. I'm up here at the hospital now. We need some serious, serious, serious prayer warriors behind us.
Okay,
So how much I'll say.
all right. So praying for healing, I'm assuming.
A great deal of it.
All right. Anybody else? Any word on you guys getting any kids?
It's in process. We are very much now, we have a date when we'll sign the papers to open our home and that'll be next Monday, not this Monday, but the next. And yeah, we've had an interesting week but God has been with us through.
All right, so 8 days from now, your life changes. Just to
Where
put it-
goes, and hopefully in between here and there, we can fix all the things that need to be fixed.
All right. Rick, how you and Lori doing up there?
Hold on. Sorry, I was trying to unmute and I was unmuted. We're doing okay. We're in the middle of a transition right now. We're moving to another town, and Lori's needing to drive less hours and stuff like that. Weather's getting bad, and so I'm going to be looking for a new job. So I just asked that everybody would pray for that.
Okay. All right, we need a new job for Rick. All right, anybody else? Diane, you okay? All right. All right, well then we're gonna pray. And Mrs. Brown, you have a lovely daughter. Would you pray? Not the daughter, the mom.
Oh, okay. Dear Jesus, thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you for the week that we've been able to have. We're so grateful for the beautiful days when we wake up and we see the sun shining. It's a gift. We're grateful for it. Lord, as we go into the service today, please help us to remember how you are. Take care of us in our times of need and in our times of good. And that we can look to you, we can trust you, we can put our faith in you, that you will be there even when it feels awful. Or alternatively, when it feels good. Thank you, Lord. We're grateful.
Amen. Don't forget, we vote today, right? Anything you want to say, Jeff? We vote on the pastor.
Yep.
All right. All right. Blessings. I will see you guys next week. See y'all.